Hey everyone, welcome to Chess Mastery with David. Now, I just really found this gem. I love this game. When I find a game like this is why I do chess. This is why I want to do this channel, to share games like this with you, to share my love for chess with you, and then hopefully to help you improve at chess at the same time. But it's like Fisher said, you have to love chess if you want to get good at it, something like that. So this game is just amazing. It's from this book that I was studying this book with my student Aya, the one who's going to represent DC in the All Girls Nationals. So we were just looking at this, and I thought, okay, I have to share this with you guys. So it's from Dvoretsky's and Yusupov's Secrets of Positional Play. I just got this actually after a Twitter discussion raised by Greg Shahadi. It was this really cool position, this crazy end game, and there's a discussion that ensued, and then I ended up getting this book. I also have the Secrets of Chess Training. Then I ended up picking up Positional Play and another one. I think it was the end game one. So or the creativity one. So it's just great books, and so that inspired me to want to share this with you. It's just this amazing game by Anand and Kamsky in the 95 match. It's interesting, the history too, because it was the match to represent or to be the candidate to challenge Kasparov in the Professional Chess Association. So this, as the Wikipedia article says, between 93 and 96. As a rival to FIDE. So really interesting history there with the World Championships, and goes into the formation and the 95 cycle, which is the one that Anand won by beating Kamsky. Then he went on to play that historic match on top of the World Trade Center so starting September 11th, 95. And Kasparov won 18 game match, 10.5 to 7.5. So Anand still gave him a good fight, but he wasn't quite world champion yet. We can still see, though, from this match that Anand, he's just this incredible player. And this is the thing. I mean, I'm a big fan of positional chess. I love players like Petrosian and Reshevsky. I guess you could say Botvinnik is a positional player as well. Karpov. I'm really inspired by players like that, as well as attacking players, Tal, Kasparov, of course, and Capablanca for positional. I really like Capablanca, as I'll mention a lot. But yeah, this is really just, you have to know positional chess, though. In order to become a master, I think you need to be well rounded. I mean, you could be a great attacker, and maybe you'll win a lot of games that way, but why not be able to win in any case? Because, like, what if the position gets locked up? When things are locked up, or things are kind of equal, it seems like it's equal, you need to get that edge. You need to squeeze something out of the position. In order to do that, you need positional mastery. You have to understand the interplay of the pawns and the pieces. You have to know all these things in order to get the edge on your opponent. And like Soman says, get those imbalances. That's fundamental to positional chess. Understanding the imbalances, nurturing them to grow your advantage, and these subtle maneuvers that respond to the demands of the position. That's exactly what Anand was doing in this game. So yeah, I'm just so passionate about this game and about this type of chess. So I think it'll really help you to understand a game like this. And yeah, so let's just jump into it. So this was between Anand and Kamsky, and this is from I like chessgames.com. It's useful site with a lot of good kibitzers on there, very knowledgeable people on there. So we have 95 PCA candidates match. This was round 9. And it says March of 95, Spanish game, closed variation, floor system. Okay, so, and Anand is playing with the white pieces against Kamsky, who's obviously also one of the best players in the world. So really great match of titans. So you have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. We get a Roy Lopez opening after bishop e5, as we looked at with the first analyze your games that you guys sent me. The first one by Neil Bruce, he played a Roy Lopez. So we'll get even deeper insight on this classic opening, the Roy Lopez. So after bishop e5, a6, typical response is to drop the bishop back, not to cede the bishop pair just yet. See what happens with if he's going to play b5. Okay, knight f6, castles. So we're going into the closed variation of the Roy Lopez. The open would be if the knight takes, and then usually we'll go back, like in the Berlin system, for example. So bishop e7, rook e1. I'm not going to really focus too much on the opening here. This is the meat of the game here. This is about the middle game. It's about maneuvering. Of course, it arises from the needs of the opening, the position, the pawn structure. But by understanding that middle game, we'll better understand the opening. So it's all interconnected. But we're really going to focus on the middle game here. So bishop b3, d6. Okay, securing e5, as we talked about in Neil Bruce's game. And then this becomes a possibility now that the knight is not responsible for this pawn anymore. The pawn is babysitting the pawn now. So we got c3, giving that little pocket to hide in case knight a5. Castles, h3. It's funny because I'm like in that other game with Neil Bruce, I'm like, you didn't need to play h3. He played h3 and then c3. I mean, it's kind of interchangeable. You could play it, you don't need to. I don't think it's too common nowadays, but it's a choice. It's a choice. So it turns out that the king needed that Luft later on helped out the king, having that air that it was given, like Lufthansa Airlines, right? Air in German. So bishop b7, d4. So he goes straight for the center, just like in Neil Bruce's game. Yeah, take that full center. Why not? That's white fighting for the initiative. White had the first move. Got to put some pressure on your opponent. I mean, again, I mentioned d3. You can play like this. A lot of players are doing this, especially. I think it's a modern approach. And get that knight maneuver in. Here or here. It's a quieter approach. But d4 is just, hey, go for it. Get that space. And we'll see white really gains the lion's share of the center here. Okay, knight develops. Don't worry about the bishop yet. The bishop should be fine there. As you'll see, a lot of these pieces end up actually staying on the back rank. It's kind of like in the King's Indian, where the c8 bishop just kind of hangs out and then sacks or something later on. It's kind of similar in this game. The bishop just chills on c1 for a while. So bishop f8, a4. That's what I mentioned that in game one of my analysis of your games, that white could have tried something like this. So this is a great example of just playing across the board, really playing across the board here. So we're looking at the queen side, we're looking at the center, potentially the king side, maybe at the end, as it turns out. But just this constant pressure across the board, that allows you to obtain the initiative. And remember, I really harp on this a lot. Anytime you make a pawn advance, it's a potential weakness, which means that the pawn on a4 is going to hit that pawn on b5, and it happens a lot in the Roy Lopez. You'll get some diagonal pressure against it, provoke that pawn to do something, maybe make it take here. I think that's from a Karpov game where he gets that beautiful pressure on a6 and just grinds him down. Because anytime you have weak pawns, it means your pieces are going to be bad if they defend it. The attacker, just one weak pawn, the attacker that looks at that pawn, they're going to have great active pieces. The defender, weak pieces. So then after that, you say, hey, who cares about your pawn? I don't care about your pawn at the end of the day. I just want to attack you. But I made you worry about that pawn. So if you didn't defend it, okay, sure, I would have taken it. But because you defended it, your pieces were consigned to some very passive roles, which we love. And then actually, okay, let's go look at your king now. So h6, or central breakthrough. Bishop c2, tucks it away, reinforces the strong point. See that a lot, that theme of overprotection from Nimzovich. Takes on d4, takes back. Okay, this is interesting. So see, essentially what happened is the e-pawn traded for the c-pawn, right? You may as well just remove those two, because the c-pawn came to d4. So the c-pawn's gone, the e-pawn's gone, right? So sure, white just got a big center, just gave up the central pawn. White got the tension in the middle is so important. Sometimes you don't want to give it up too early. So maybe this wasn't so good for black, because here Anand just gets a really nice center. Of course, when you have the center, it's your role, your duty to defend it. If you are playing against the center, like in hypermodern play happens a lot, it's your duty, of course, to attack the center conversely. So knight b4. So that's really the key, is that the c-pawn does move to d4, but since the a-pawn moved, there's no possible way to defend b4. So it's a weakening of the dark squares, weakening this one. This one we need to be strengthened. But okay, fine, the knight comes in. But is it artificial or not? You have to ask yourself that. Is it just window dressing on b4, or is it truly doing something, coordinating with the rest of the army? As it turns out, it's actually the way that Dvoretsky and Yusupov describe it. They say it's a bad piece, as it turns out. For now, it seems good. It hacks the bishop. Okay, go back to b1. Typical idea. Now, again, Neil Bruce's game, he went to b3. I was saying, okay, maybe you should have gone to b1, at least a good alternative. So here we see, most of the time, we do see that happen. And you can imagine, once that pawn pushes, unleash your bishop. So it's kind of a dormant beast, right? It's like a volcano in b1, ready to erupt across the opponent's position. the potential energy could turn into kinetic energy at any moment. That's what Anand actually, as he describes the game, he talks about his pieces possess great potential energy, and you'll see that, and then you'll see them explode, which is pretty cool. So again, it's this positional play, this subtle play, but it's not just for the faint-hearted. You know, it's not just because you want to play quiet. No, you're ready for the attack. You want the attack, but you're waiting for the right moment. You need to create, as to tie it into attack in chess, the art of attack in chess, creating the preconditions for attack. Okay, b3, interesting option. So this is where I think he deviates from the book, plays an interesting move. Why do you think he did that? Think about it. Why did he play b3? Not just to secure a4. See, he creates a pathway for his bishop. So you think maybe he wanted this diagonal? Possible. Well, the bishop secures it for now. But he's looking at different avenues of attack. Imagine this. Hitting that diagonal, hitting this diagonal. So either way, it's going to be strong. Should have good pressure. But on b2, look at that. We want to push, right? If you're planning to push, may as well put your bishop there. Actually, he has a cooler idea. Oh, it ties into it. But it's not just bishop b2. Watch what he does. Again, this is where this beautiful maneuvering begins by Anand. So nuanced, his play. So g6. Okay, so it's kind of typical in the Roy Lopez. Sometimes the bishop goes back, creates a fianchetto, and then the g6 pawn will hold off any knight jumps. Or, okay, maybe we'll sack a knight anyway. Who cares if we can do it? But, okay, it makes our job a little more difficult. You're not going to just crack that easy. Not giving in. So bishop b2, bishop g7. So again, this notion, it comes up a lot, this notion of this what's the word? This sort of counterbalanced bishops, I guess you'd say, these bishops that are countering each other on the diagonal, vying for control. And as I mentioned, those alpha 0 matches where alpha 0 just wiped Stockfish off the board where he won. His bishop on g2 won out the bishop on b7 against the Queen's Indian. So now we just have the dark squared bishops instead. Oh, he's doing a double fianchetto. Interesting. For Kamsky. Bishop g7. Okay, queen c1. Why queen c1? Such a deep move in these very deep ideas of maneuvering. So he doesn't, he's not in any rush. Sure, maybe he could push on to e5, but why? Why rush? Are you ready yet for a decisive breakthrough? You can play e5 pretty much anytime you want. Doesn't it? This massive center that white has, very dynamic center, it can't really be stopped. This move's on tap. And just throw it down anytime we want. Bishop g7, queen c1. So think about it, why did Kamsky do this? Why did Anand do this to Kamsky? I'm sure Kamsky has some awesome games too, we'll give him credit. But in this case, Anand is the star. He won the match decisively, and he won this game decisively. So, okay, c8. That comes next. Why queen c1? Especially if rook c8, it says, hey, you're walking on the c file, going to get hit by that rook eventually after c5. Well, of course, we can always bypass. So what he has in mind is actually part of his plan to strengthen control the diagonal. So he's fighting for that diagonal. What's the idea? Bishop c3, queen b2, magnifying that pressure. And then whether you go d5 or e5, so d5 would unleash it. I'm sorry, yeah, and e5 would, hit the knight and help create the conditions for a kingside attack. Although you would open up that bishop, so be careful. But you have both options. So that maneuver would just strengthen that push. And then once you get, say you bust into e6, now you're really unleashing the potential energy of the pieces. So d5, he bypasses it. What else? If you take, you're just kind of losing your center. So I don't think Anand wanted to lose his center. We sort of have a Benoni now. See, I was talking before about how you have these sort of transposition of structures that lead to different types of openings, right? So we went from Roy Lopez to essentially a Benoni type setup. You can get almost same structure from a Benoni. So, it doesn't matter what opening you play in a lot of cases. You can get very similar things. This was from an e4 opening, essentially to a d4 structure. But hey, it's about where the pawns are placed. And again, we need to really understand that interplay between the pieces, the pawns, where the weaknesses are based on where the pawns are. Pawns are the soul of chess, as Philidor said, I think back in the 1700s. Remember that. Think about those pawns. That's critical to chess mastery. Queen e7. Interesting try on that. I mean, okay, why are you walking into the rook? Seems a bit dubious. Let's see. Knight f1. Okay. So with knight f1, now notice this. Another deep maneuver. We're keeping our eye on h6. And of course, we're preparing to maneuver the knight to greener pastures. It wasn't doing much on d2, but notice this is so subtle. Understanding what your opponent can potentially do and squashing those plans. So, for example, this knight may have wanted to move to trade off bishops. I think he still does it anyway. But the difference is that now the queen's aiming at h6. So, well, in certain lines, the bishop may have been able to take on c3, but later on. But there might be this queen takes h6 idea in some lines, and also even if you take on g7, let's say like in the game, knight h7, unleashing the bishop. Let's say you trade. Well, then the bishop, this is softened. You weaken the dark square complex. Black will be weakening this dark square complex and that softening it, and the queen will be hitting here. And that king is open on g7, then you have to worry about queen c3 hitting this diagonal. So it's just this loosening of the position if black tries to trade. So the queen will want that diagonal potentially. It's understanding all the potential things, all the potential situations that may arise. So while your opponent's thinking, hey, use their clock, don't go walk around the whole time and just come back and blitz out your move. No, really think deeply about all the possibilities for both sides. That's so critical. You know, you can never look deep enough into it, especially a position like this. I mean, you could just never look deep enough. There's so many possibilities, each one so nuanced. Knight h7, okay, we trade. Again, look at the looseness. Look at white's king, look at black's king. Critical imbalance, king safety. Who does this imbalance favor? It's clearly white. Nice protection. Black, okay, it seems like it can move back, it does. But don't forget about that diagonal. We traded bishops, but weaknesses were left in their wake. Squares the bishop used to control. That pawn push, right? If the pawn were on g7, be covered. Not anymore. Now the king is doing that duty, performing the duty of protecting the dark square as well. King could, I think it was it Steinitz who said the king could defend for himself? I think one of my students told me that once. He was like really into Steinitz, which you should be. It's great. I mean, really good stuff. Check out Steinitz's work. So 93, centralizing. Hey, maybe he's like, I want to sack my knight on f5. Do something like this. That could be attractive, especially with that queen here. Getting here, can anticipate a focal point on g7, made him right there. Okay. h5. That's a concession, clearly. Clearly a concession. Oh, right, because we direct knight g4 as well. Don't even need a sack. Just go knight g4 and h6 looks like it's collapsing. Can't even go queen g5. Yeah, that's going to get nasty. Knight g4 is coming. Queen h6. Hard to stop. So yeah, Kamsky, that's definitely a concession though. So now he's got strength on the light squares, but look at those dark squares. Those dark squares, gaping holes around there, right? So let's see how Anand takes advantage. Now, you don't always need to take advantage of it directly. It's just this long-term asset you have. Your opponent's weaknesses is an asset. Now, you could sit on that asset. It's like, okay, I'm going to sit like Warren Buffett, right? He's going to sit on this stock, whatever it is, Coca-Cola or something. He's going to sit on that for 50 years, right? And let it grow. Law of compounding interest, right? Or law of compounding. So, yeah, just let it sit there. And you can maybe bust open the center, get to the queen side. He plays everywhere, but he's trying to build up his assets along the way. And we'll see which one he uses. Maybe he uses all of them. Okay, queen d2, king g8. You can't anticipate exactly what's going to happen, but we're just building up our assets, creating opportunities. Takes. Now, he found the right moment to open the 8 file. See, be patient. Wait for the right time. Anytime you want, you can penetrate to a7 with the rook. And where's black's weaknesses? So we talked about the weaknesses on the king side. Hey, maybe f7, because that's the base of the pawn chain. We'll keep an eye on f7. Where are the weaknesses in the center and queen side for black? Think about it. Maybe pause it, study the position for a few minutes. Where are the weaknesses for black? D6, B5 on the pawns and the squares, A7 definitely. Pretty much, well, the entire second, his second rank, our seventh rank, a lot of weaknesses. We could penetrate to the seventh rank, we'll really exploit that. And the sixth rank as well. So we can anticipate our rook penetrating to A6 or A7. He might get to A6 later on, we'll see. So knight, oh, I didn't want to show you right away when you think about that. So, but, well, why knight D1? Okay, why knight D1? It looks weird, right? Going to the back rank. Of course, he has a deep idea behind it. Now, this is probably the most beautiful move of the game, I think. Like Fischer when he played that, I think it was knight H8 in the King's Indian game. Those beautiful retreats take one step back to go 5 steps forward, right? So knight D1, knight A6. What's he anticipating? This meets a few things. Now, again, unleashing the queen, it was well placed on this diagonal, on the C1 H6 diagonal. So I think it was that black wanted to go knight G5, alleviate some pressure. And Anand is relentless. He says, no, I understand the position. I know what you're trying to do, and I'm stopping you from doing that. You're not getting in. You're not going to trade that silly knight on H7. I'm going to have superior pieces to yours. Like I told you how Dimo Werner said, maximize your pieces. Maximize your pieces. That's fundamental chess. Maximize your pieces. Exploit weaknesses. Keep your king safe. Go after their king. That's fundamental. So, knight D1, going back to maximize the knight. And, of course, what else is he going to attack when he gets to C3? Here, B5. That softness. And he gets out of the way. Lets the rook do his job on the e file, make the queen uncomfortable, particularly after e5 comes. So he achieves at least 3 things simultaneously. That's a strong move, defensively and offensively. Look at that. Beautiful chess. I love it. Look at that, knight G5. That's stopped. So prophylactic play as well as attacking play. Got to combine everything. Again, deep understanding of the opponent's capabilities, the opponent's weaknesses. Not just the weaknesses, though, remember. It's what they can do to you. That's the fundamental aspect of prophylactic play. Understanding your opponent's possibilities, potential threats that may arise long ways down the road. Just like when you have this potential asset we're looking at in on G7 or around the king. All these assets. Look at assets your opponent might have or your own weaknesses. Shore them up. Get rid of them. Read The Art of Defense in chess too. I definitely recommend that. Knight to D1. Knight A6. So I guess he's anticipating the knight coming. Maybe he wants to hit him with B4, try to stop that knight. Okay, what's going to happen? What's bad about B4? You gain more space, typical in Benoni type setups, especially if the knight can reach C5. Usually that happens after C4. Kind of squeeze white in that position, at least on the queen side, a bit in the center. Knights can start hopping in to D3 and stuff. Because white has some weaknesses too in the center. But unfortunately, black is not poised to take advantage of those. Now, so if B4 happens, what's weak? Especially C4 and A4. Coming to A5 as well. Everything matters. Every detail matters. That's positional chess. And they build up. Little advantages build up until you crush your opponent. So knight goes to B2 and then to C4. And then you're hitting D6. See? It's all connected. And then you're hitting F7. Look at that. String of weaknesses. It's like island hopping. All right. Knight A6, knight C3, hit B5, okay, he goes B4, he's ready. Now, when I first looked at it, I thought, okay, maybe he's going to go back, and then he's going to go to B2, and then he's going to go to C4. That happens sometimes, like in Queen's Gambit structures, where black plays B5, white plays A4, black plays B4, then they bring the knight back and stuff. But he doesn't do that. You had to be really careful if you're going to make a move like B5, knight B5, because the knight could get stranded, but he understood his opponent's capabilities, how he could take advantage of that knight, and he can't. He just can't do it. So because of that, Kamsky says, all right, I'll let you just trade off the knight. Now this is interesting because you think, hey, I want to attack. I don't want to trade pieces. Well, that's kind of the general rule. But remember, if there are weaknesses, you can exploit those weaknesses throughout the game up to the end game. I remember a cool game I had, with just pieces got traded off, and I had like 2 rooks and a queen. But he had these weaknesses around a king, and then my pieces just kind of started shifting, like just moving their way in. The Capablanca, what was it? Capablanca played the Caro-Kann against Nimzovich. Great game. I don't know the year of it, but yeah, Capablanca just beautifully exploits the weaknesses into the endgame, brings his rook to c4 to e4. Other one comes in, starts shifting in, and he just needed his rooks and his queen. Same example. Actually, I think I was using the Capablanca example to inspire me in that game. Said, hey, it's okay to trade the pieces, no problem. Just trying to keep the advantage. Don't lose the don't not trade pieces and then lose the initiative. If you can keep the pieces and it works for you, fine. Weigh it out carefully. Think about what you're losing if you choose not to trade. So look, the knight's a key defender. Remove the defender by trading it off. Now the bishop's invading. That's pretty uncomfortable. Hitting the rook. Don't want to lose the exchange, so he shifts over. Covers his weakness. Base of the pawn chain. Attack the pawn chain at the base. So he's got to hold on to the base. Bishop c4. Yeah, this reminds me of a game. Is that like his Fischer game? It kind of reminds me of Fischer versus Spassky round 6, where he has that b3 pawn. I love that. I'll talk about that a couple times. The b3 pawn push, tightening the screws, securing the bishop. Now it looks like what's the bishop doing? It doesn't matter. It's blocked by the pawn, but think ahead. Imagine, mold the position with your mind. Imagine the possibilities. e5, d6. That's coming. You're not stopping e5. You want to play f6? Okay, be my guest. Now you're welcoming the pieces to come in, weakening those squares. So suddenly, the light squares become lethally weak. Who knows? There might be even a sack. Just sack it anyway. Break things open. Maybe it unleashes a queen or something. Yeah, it's going to be nasty. So I don't think you want f6. But okay, you can also play f4 later on. So just anticipate the flexibility of your pawn structure. Master the pawn structure. Consider every way in which you can mold your pawns, and therefore the impact that it has on the pieces. Knight f6, queen h6. Okay, why not? Let's invade, make the queen go back to try to trade. See, black wants to trade here because he senses white's possibilities here. Anand has a very strong position. And look at this. Look at the solidity. Solidity helps you attack because it means that you don't have to worry about counterattack for the most part. So look at this. There's nothing to attack. White has the a file right now. You can try and challenge it, but got this. This is secured. This is secured. Ready. Of course, it's coming. We know a5 is going to come. The king is totally secure. Got two pieces around it, intact. Can't open it up. Can't get in. So black's game is incredibly passive because of those issues with the pawn structure, with the piece placement, which is a result of the pawn structure, of course. So queen g5, queen g7. Fianchettoing the queen, always like that. Fianchetto a knight, fianchetto a queen. It's always fun. Rook a7. Okay, now it's time. Now he's ready. He's secured his position. He's just entering now. Rook a7. Hitting the bishop. Blocks. Now look at this awkwardness. Well, he's pinned his own rook. So bishop a6. Now he's starting to win it based on pin it and win it. Pinned here. Rook goes to b8. Okay. So pieces have become incredibly passive in black's position. This is not a good setup. Now, once you tangle them up, bam, breakthrough. Knight goes to e8. Rook takes b7. Trade them out again. And such a deep insight. Anand understands that shedding the pieces, liquidating it somewhat, is okay. Look at this. The rook just left the back rank. That's an important point. The fewer rooks actually means that it'll be harder. Look at now we got the 8th rank, 7th rank, and 6th rank that could all potentially come under attack. Let's start with this. Nice move. Simple, maximizing move. Maximalist approach. Simple threat. Pinning the knight, threatening to take it. And now we're looking at the d6 pawn. There it goes. There it goes. The base is going to fall. Everything is going to collapse. Either here or here. The 7th rank, depending on the rook goes. But it looks like the 8th rank is where it's at right now. Okay, queen went to f8 to g7. Back to f8. Not fun. There it is. Beautiful. Don't even get preoccupied with some pawn stuff right now. We're not worried about a pawn. We're worried about our rook. We want to maximize our rook. Bring it down. Win some stuff. That looks good. Force some awkward concessions. Maybe then we'll pick up d6 when it's optimal at the opportune moment. Queen f8, rook a1. Yeah, so maybe I think the book talked about e6 potentially. e6 looks interesting. It's a little slow. If you take, that's nothing. Knight just takes. Blockade. Because it looks like when you take, you're unleashing the rook. You are. So what? Knight takes, blockading, and then we're threatening to trade queens. I think black puts up more resistance there. So anticipate that. Think like you're your opponent. Be in their shoes. Anticipate their best response. That's how you form a good calculation tree. You have to know the best moves for both sides in every situation. You can take shortcuts too. You look at the main candidate moves, the most forcing moves. You have to at least calculate the most forcing moves for each side. Rook a1, knight c7. Okay, that seems like a good defense. Well, I mean, he can't stop everything, right? He's got to worry about the rook, and he's got to worry about d6. So he deals with the rook, covering these squares, covering this with the rook, but d6 falls anytime. Now this is nice. He's not hasty to win a pawn. He has the winning position. He holds all the cards. He holds the best cards. So he just goes queen d7, maximizing the pressure, continuing to put pressure. We got a pin. Now, what are some more threats? I think we can take at some point. Can't get the rook in yet. Maybe we can push here. Maybe we could bring our knight in. The position is right. All these squares are just very tempting to invade. Queen b8. Okay. So it seems like he's got everything under control. What's the simplest way for Anand to win here? Don't play too fancy sometimes. We call it simple chess. Just play simple chess. There's a pawn on d6. It's ripe for the picking. No need to take with the pawn and ruin the structure. Just take with the queen. Look at that. Beautiful, centralized, advanced, dynamic pawns. Passed pawn is going to be just vicious when it's coming in there. It's terrible for his opponent. Plus, it gives you the possibility of playing here. The knight's still coming in, or if you play e5, then the knight, e6, then I can come to e5. Plus, you got any penetration of the rook that's imminent. So I think it's a one game. Queen takes d6, for all intents and purposes, at this level, is a one game. But of course, Kamsky's a great defender, so don't take it for granted. Once you have the advantage, okay, so I learned take a step away from the board because I kept on losing positions where I was just crushing people. So that was like one of my things holding me back from reaching 2200. So I said, all right, one thing I wrote down for myself to review before each match: when you're winning, take a step away from the board, then clear your head, forget about everything, say, okay, new task. I need to destroy my opponent in this position. I need to win this position. Everything else didn't matter. Because otherwise you become spoiled, basically. Like, oh, look at all these things I got, right? It's like a spoiled kid. You're used to having all these things, and then you don't work hard or something, right? So just forget about everything else. You are where you are. Master the position in front of you. That's the fundamental truth of chess. You have to master this position right here, right now. So c4. Okay, well, there you go, right? So you just took that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm good. Then suddenly your opponent plays c4, and then they're creating complication. Well, obviously this is good for white. You got 6 pawns against 4 pawns. Okay, but don't always focus on the number of pawns. It's about the position. This guy's coming fast, so there could be some serious tactical complications that'll arise because of that passed pawn. We got c4, d5. That looks strong. I mean, this is coming, but this guy's faster. We have to move our queen. This guy is strong too, though. Don't forget. Use your own assets. That might actually stop your opponent. We don't want our pieces to become super passive just because of that lone pawn right there. But we do need to take it seriously. Ideally, we're going to attack and defend simultaneously, which is precisely what Anand does. So b3, rook b1, b2. Yeah, why not? That's his asset. He's got to utilize his asset to the max. That's like usually when you're winning, your opponent will come up with like they'll have like one wild card that they're going to try and use on you. You just got to kill that wild card. You have to find out what it is and kill it because you can't let that thing get you. This is the one thing that he's trying to use. Like usually they're desperate, right? They're desperate and they have nothing to lose. So they're going to go all out with that one asset they've got. So you have to, tread carefully. Make sure you don't let that thing be the thing that beats you. Queen c5 is the hardest thing to win, as Lasker said, is one game. Rook b3. But when you maximize your own pieces and understand your own opponent's capabilities and stop them, you'll be fine. So rook b3, queen d4. Nice little maneuver. Look at that. So he sticks his queen from in front of the pawns, tucks them behind the pawns. Well, which supports kind of like a rook behind a pawn, right? You want to be behind the pawns to support them. And we're looking here. And we can always go to the back rank if we need to. But when you look here on b2, it restricts the rook. So the rook can't leave. No tricks, right? You want to go there? I'm taking that pawn. And remember, h3, if h3 weren't there, there'd be problems with trying to win that pawn. You wouldn't be able to win it because the checkmate stuff on the back rank. But now, nice comfortable Luft. Again, this solidity, prophylaxis, nothing to worry about. Well, except for the b2 pawn, but it makes it much easier to deal with. And he makes sure he does. He takes it seriously. Perfect model of how to exploit an advantage. Queen b4. Okay, see, now we're going for the counterattack. We still need to keep pressure. If you let up on that pressure, then your opponent really may take over. Don't give them the initiative. Just respond to what you need to respond to, and then kick them back. Rook c3. See, because now that he's on queen b4, he's able to go there and obstruct the queen. So unfortunately, we can't take the b2 pawn anymore when the rook moves. But it's dangerous. But we don't need to do something passive like queen d1. You might make that in the blitz game or something. Oh man, I got to defend everything. But it turns out, of course, what was the idea of knight g5? To attack what? Our focal point, as Vukovic in the Art of Attacking Chess, as I like to bring up. Got to read those books. Attacking f7. Yeah, I don't know. I guess YouTube videos are pretty good, but they can only show you so much. Got to master those classics to become a master, I think. I think it will help. Queen f4. Just the art of it. Sitting down and reading. Yeah, don't lose it. Queen f4. Hitting f7. Okay, now we're threatening mate in 2, right? Check. King moves. Mate on h7. So, yeah, this basically black, again, went all out. He was desperate in the situation, Kamsky. And so he left his own king stranded. So you can feel the win is within reach. But you got to stop his one asset. You got to kill that asset. So he goes, oh, in the book it said f6. Was it f5? Maybe they have the notation here wrong. I pulled this from chessgames.com. The book, they said it was f6. Either way, after f5, obviously we just take en passant. And what's the threat? This guy is unstoppable. So it actually turns out to be the f-pawn because of that strong e-pawn that becomes an f-pawn. So it was the combination of this pawn and our threats here that made him throw this in here to block the f-file. But now we're coming unstoppable. We're coming down here on the f-file, just rushing in, unstoppable. After e takes f6, okay, desperation. Well, you have this line. You have a pin, so you pin it and win it. I mean, okay, you can take the pawn, but it's going to be over. f7 check, and when he resigned. When the king moves, Anand will play knight check, and then we're getting a queen. Where actually, I think he can't even take the queen. Oh, he could if he goes to g7. But for example, what if he goes here? Okay, then we have knight e6 check, and we're getting here. We're making it to the promised land. We are getting our queen. We're going to win the queen at least, and then mate soon. What about the counterplay? Oh, so what? You let him. This is where you have to understand, right? You're going. This is where you're going all out for the attack. Situations like this, consider your maximum possibility. That's why the maximalist approach should be your default. So, for example, after king g7, so you might be like, oh, but if I move my queen up, then they're going to get this on me, and that's scary. Okay, who cares? It's a ghost because your attack is so strong. You need to have faith, have confidence in your own attack. Because after king g7, we got knight e6 check, and he's dead, right? Where does he go? King here. Okay. Should we get a knight? I know, I think we could probably get a queen, right? That would be kind of fun to get a knight and check him if we get a mate. I think we should, let's try the queen. That should be our default. So if we get a queen, okay, let him mess with us over here. Or does he take first? Yeah, he pulls the queen because the queen is really nice on f4 since it'll work with the rook to make anything ineffectual, any kind of check. So first you take here. Oh, even better. Now you can take with you don't need to get a knight. You just take it. You just take with the knight. Now you take with check, and then you pick up the b2 pawn, or mate is coming, right? Let's say he goes here. Okay, we probably have other things, but that's good enough. Oh, our queen's hanging. Okay, hold on. What do we do here? Should we check him again with the knight? How about this check? That looks nice. Let's check here. He takes. I mean, there's probably so many ways to win. This looks good enough for me. I'm happy. We're up a queen for knight and 2 pawns. Okay, want to check? No problem. Go in our pocket that we created, our Luft, and that's a game. Mate is coming in a few moves with the queen of the rook. So, Yeah, again, that's not probably not the most accurate moves, but just the point is, you know, I could play that in with 5 second delay or whatever and easily win. Just have to be careful. But so in this position, f7 check. Yeah, and if he goes king f8, then we'll simply go to, this is even nicer. I think h7. It doesn't make a difference. No, I don't think it makes a difference. Same idea. Because if he goes here, it's worse, because then you get the queen and the king is blocking the diagonal. But if he goes here, same idea. We're gonna get this with a check. Okay, I think the other one was, yeah, the other one wasn't even with the check, but takes, queen takes, check, king takes, and again, I think this should do the trick, because we're coming to b7 with imminent mate. Okay, go ahead, check, get your spike check in, go to the pocket, game. Well, even if there's not a mate right now, it's just overwhelming material advantage. But yeah, this is probably mate in 3 or something. So yeah, you can try this. Big deal. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, that's over. Check. And if he goes back, it's mate on the back rank. If he goes up, should we just take the knight first? Yep. Take the knight, and now you can't even cover the 6th rank. That's coming in mate. So yeah, pretty amazing game. I just had to share that with you because when I saw that game, and I think my student got a lot out of it too. So anytime I see a game like that where I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is a game with so much, just these nuggets of wisdom packed in it. So then we just have to draw them out and discuss them. So hopefully you got something out of it. Let me know if you have any questions about any aspects of the game. And yeah, go play some awesome positional chess to help create attacks. Yeah, get your attacks, but you know, keep in mind the strength of positional chess, strong maneuvers. It's all interconnected. Everything is interconnected in chess.